silence for all those who have been affected by these mass slaughters, in particular in Dallas, and all the families who are being affected. So if we could, I'd like to take a minute or a moment of silence for that, and go to flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mayor Lombardo.
Here.
Councilman Matthew.
Here.
Stephen Reed.
Here.
Kathleen Bellagio. Here. William Mearstead.
Here.
Michael Vina.
Here.
Robert Shear.
Here.
Gene Gennady.
Here.
Paul Tarantino.
Here.
Craig McCarrick.
Here.
Paul Nieves will be late. Steve Napolitano.
Here.
And John Malcolm.
Here.
Okay, at this time, this special meeting should be very brief, and it's to memorialize the resolution that was proposed on May 25th, I believe it was, at the for the redevelopment plan. With that, I'm just going to read the minor changes that were made as a result of that meeting. Those minor changes, along with the redevelopment resolution, was handed to the council. However, there were some changes that we had not voted on as a result of the meeting, so that's why we're doing that here tonight. It's pretty much an administrative process. It should be fairly straightforward, and it's not open for discussion at this time. We will have a general comment session at the end of our meeting. With that,
Mr. Chairman, if I might just for 1 second, I would just note for the record that this is in fact a corrective resolution. It was pointed out, I believe it was by the borough attorney, Mr. Renaud, that the plan, or the last iteration of the plan for Mr. Vinagre's office that was submitted to council was dated May 27, 2016, which was the last set of revisions, whereas the more earlier resolution had been memorialized on May 25. So it just didn't make a lot of logical sense to have a memorializing resolution dated May 25 that references a plan that was last amended May 27. And that's the reason, it's the technical reason why this corrective resolution is being adopted. It's not really a new decision or action, it's just making a technical correction because of the date.
okay, thank you. Thank you, Mal. And with that, one of the first items that was changed is the amended date of May 27th. There was an addition to the license number alongside Victor Vinagre's name, so that's reflected at this time. On page 1, we have dates that were added, dates that were not in the original, but they have been added, which is according to the workshops that we had, which was April 18th and April 25th, 2016. Page 2, we have the project description of the size of the properties, and lot 5 was indicated as 0.0356. It's now reflected to say 0.036. And we have lot 1, which was 2.87 and is now 2.8. Lot 2 was added, and lot 5 was 0.036 as stated.
Just so the record is clear, Chairman, it is reciting from Mr. Vinagre's plan rather than the resolution that the board will be voting on this evening.
Thank you. Again, on page 8, we have the studio apartments and no 3-bedroom market rate units and between 16,450 and 18,250 square feet. And it was stated as a minimum of 18,250 square feet. Going on to page 9, we added an S for spaces, and it went from 534 parking spaces to 537 as reflected in the plan. And that covers all of the changes or improvements to the redevelopment plan. So with that, do I hear a motion to...
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adopt the corrected resolution as read.
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call.
William Nierstead,
Aye.
Paul Tarantino,
Aye.
Gene Genati,
Aye.
Stephen Reed,
Yes.
Kathy Bellagio,
Yes.
Michael Dina,
Yes.
and Craig McCarron.
Yes.
Okay, the resolution has now been memorialized as correctly stated earlier.
Adele, do you want one with typewritten stuff on the vote for you tomorrow? Is that easy for you?
Sure.
All right. So the in favors are the same as they were last time, with the exception that Mr. Nieves didn't vote because he's not here.
Right.
And tell me just again who made the motion and who seconded it.
I have Mr. Nierstead as making the motion, and Mr. Vina made the second.
Okay, I'll put that in. And I'll get to you tomorrow. All right.
And I have 3 vouchers that are all in escrow.
You want to do the resolution?
Yes. Recommending the governing body adopt the South Avenue redevelopment plan.
No. Cormier.
Oh, I'm sorry, we have one additional resolution that needs to be done, and that's the resolution declining the front yard parking for 41 Second Avenue, block 208, and that was in the matter of Sharon Ormar. Has everybody taken a look at it? Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I second the motion.
Discussion first, 1 second.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, the last page, the last whereas, it's fine, but since it's a denial, I'm just going to make sure we're kind of pretty explicit. Don has there's insufficient size of the front yard for the parking slot, which is fine. If you wouldn't mind adding to it the fact that something like requiring a car to park over the property line and the sidewalk. If that's okay with you, who made the motion in second. That'd be appreciated. If not, it's fine without it.
It does say that there's an insufficient size of the front yard.
Right.
Well, so it's
Yeah, I
interesting,
think-
it's interesting that you focused on that, because when I wrote it, and I thought about it, because I also had the question in my mind whether the board was also of the opinion that the width of the property was really insufficient for that driveway. Even though you could physically put it, it was going to really minimize the green space in front of the house. So I thought that just saying insufficient size covered it all.
It's fine either way, as long as the record reflects that, that's fine.
And in fact, on the whereases under the testimony, I think it was the second whereas clause on page 2 of 3, and the testimony of board engineer Venagro pointed that out.
That's fine.
So that's why I wrote the way I wrote it. And I made sure that I didn't call it a driveway, but I put driveway in quotes because it was a board member who felt that the term driveway was not apropos.
And just one thing on that, if notes me is opposing it, I abstained on that vote.
Okay.
All right.
I took that, actually, I got that, I thought from the minutes.
I abstained.
Okay. Sorry, man.
No problem. Okay, with that, I think we
Then
have a
also,
motion.
then that also makes the motion tonight, instead of 8-1, makes it 8-0 to track the abstention. You got that done?
With that, I hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
Yeah, right there.
Roll call. Beth?
Mayor Lombardo?
Aye.
Stephen Reed?
Aye.
William Nierstead?
Yes?
Mike Vina?
Yes.
Robert Shear.
Yes.
Kathy Bellagio.
Yes.
Gene Gennady.
Yes.
And Craig McCarron.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Resolution carries.
Would you just double check the votes on the minutes again, on the tape, for the next meeting?
Sure.
Listen to the tape again. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we have 3 vouchers here that are all escrow for Harper Consultants. One is for the Garwood paperboard in the amount of $280. The second one is the Home Depot in the amount of $787.50. And the third one is for $280 for South Haven redevelopment.
Make a motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Bills are paid. Okay, at this time, I will open an invitation to address the board, not on site-specific applications, but general comments.
Maybe we can update the board on the discussion that you and I had about the redevelopment and forwarded a letter from Bob Renaud. We have a special master for Union County for the COA. We're in the consortium, because we still have amnesty in building remedy litigation. And the municipalities that have amnesty have teamed together and pooled their resources. They were allowed to by state law to have a single case. They're going to try a single case in Union County to figure out what the numbers, the actual numbers of affordable housing units are going to be. That case is going to be in Berkeley Heights. We happen to also be the planners for Berkeley Heights, so we're handling their situation. But the Elizabeth McKenzie is recommending that we may have a follow-up meeting with the special master set up from the county, that we may be even pulled out of that because of the redevelopment plan, because we've made progress as a municipality. The courts may say we may not be a part of that litigation. We may be totally exempt from that and not have to pay for that litigation. So all the communities that are represented by the Berkeley Heights case, which I think about 9 communities within Union County, they all have to contribute to the legal fees and the experts. Because of the South Avenue redevelopment, and we don't meet our requirement yet, but because this board has taken action to show that we're progressing with our master plan, as we did a number of years ago, the redevelopment, the transit-oriented development plan, was that 10 years ago. And so 10 years ago, as we stated before, we did a transit plan done by NJ Transit, as Kathy was very helpful.
2010.
Yeah, of getting that funding 6 years ago, I'm sorry. And then the updated master plan done by another consultant. And because we worked on this redevelopment plan, that the courts feel we're probably one of the better towns in Union County right now, meeting our obligation. So we may, not only have we, because of that redevelopment plan, have we retained our amnesty, we may be one of the few towns that are removed from litigation currently and not have to abide by the Berkeley Heights case, or contribute to the legal funds in the Berkeley Heights case. And there's going to be a follow-up meeting that Bob Renaud, the municipal attorney, is setting up with Betsy McKenzie, special master, and our planner, which is Jill Hartman, and myself, and I forwarded that email to the board chair, maybe the board chair attend this meeting. So that meeting may be coming up within a week or two, and to tell the judge to keep our stay from litigation, so we're still, and we only have one, we have one case that's outstanding, but that's the developer. If they eventually become named redeveloper, that case goes away on the South Avenue. So we're in pretty good situation right now with the redevelopment. And that is one of the reasons, and I must have received since our last meeting, another 15 phone calls for people who want to develop on various parcels within Garwood. And they always use the building remedy on the phone call to me and said, no, we got amnesty. We have been working for 10 years to achieve this amnesty, and we're moving forward. And this redevelopment plan is all part of that.
Okay, thank you. Bill?
Mr. Chairman, that's great. It's like to reiterate what as Vic said, I think it's very key. That's with the, we maybe pull that with the understanding, okay, that this redevelopment plan become reality, and the development become reality. Vic, what do you think would happen if this redevelopment plan, which provides affordable housing, did not advance?
Well, I don't know that.
Well, let me rephrase it then. Let me rephrase it. You know the question I'm asking.
I know, but I don't know that it's, I don't know that that's
Okay, well, let me
an
rephrase it
appropriate
then.
question to answer.
Then let me just make that statement, okay, that I think it's very important for everyone to recognize that what Vic is saying is terrific. Moving forward is great in that manner. It's contingent upon that redevelopment plan and development happening.
And this was appropriate in
Yeah.
giving us an update on actually what transpired, so, thank you. With that, I'll open it up to the general public. Comments? Seeing none? Oh, I have one.
It's not mandatory.
Name that.
Bruce Patterson, 325 Willow Avenue, Garwood. As you wrapped up your meeting, I mean, the public now heard like another scare tactic. It seems to be like you guys just want to throw out scare tactics, which is trying to scare us. But we understand what you're doing, and I'm not going to call it ramming through, but it sure looks like it's being pushed forward very fast, to the point where I'm finding this special meeting, I must take exception to this special meeting, because I see no urgency or immediacy of why we're having this special meeting when there is a regular meeting on the 27th. I would hope you explain to the public what this is, because right now you're spending taxpayers' money, the time, the resources, all the planning board members, the public members, the Westfield Eateries here for this special meeting. So there's a lot of expenditures going on, and for some reason, I don't see the immediacy, and hopefully you'll be able to explain about that. Could we have an explanation? Somebody? Anybody?
Are you finished?
Sure. Well,
No, we're waiting for you to
answer.
conclude, we're waiting for you to conclude your comments.
Oh, I could ramble on for an hour.
I know.
Okay, go ahead.
No, are you concluded with your comments?
Probably not. Depends on the answer, of course.
Finish up, and I'll be happy to give you whatever information I can provide.
It's not an interrogation session, Bruce. It's a place for comments.
So he doesn't have to answer, actually.
That's correct, he doesn't.
Okay, but I do appreciate if he actually does answer. But this plan that is in place and moving forward, and obviously getting some resistance from certain residents, not all the residents, and and the scare tactics that are going on. What I'm looking at, because I've been going to these meetings, and for a while there I was on the planning board, but I've been coming to these meetings, and I just see a complacency, just a consensus, a lack of spirited debate and critical thinking as to what we really should have there. I mean, everybody is agreeing that's great, and yet there's a lot of residents saying, whoa, that's too big. I mean, is it the reason of 10% COA? Well, what about 15% COA or 20% COA, which a lot of places have as a ratio, which obviously would be a lot less units than that ratio. I'll stop there, and I'll just wait for if you would like to answer, Chair Green.
No. You finished then?
Oh yeah, I'm finished. No, there's this one comment, last comment. I think the planning board is poisoning garbage, but then now go ahead.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
With that, the reason that we're having this meeting is to finalize a resolution, and only because of an administrative situation was not correctly approved as memorialized. So with that, I felt that we needed to finish our end of the process, so that this resolution can be voted up to the mayor and council as discussed, and there's a whole flow, and we went through that before. This is not an approval of the redevelopment per se. This is a resolution that's being forwarded to the mayor and council by way that they can provide an ordinance that they then vote on. So that's basically the reason for this meeting. It's very possible that this meeting's expenditures will be as part of an escrow account. So regardless, I felt, and I do have that prerogative, that it was imperative to have this special meeting so that we could finish our end of a job that we've been working on for, Kathy, how many years?
Since 2008, 2008, when we held numerous hearings, public hearings, the master plan. We held 2 public meetings that were not required by law to have, in addition to the public hearing that we had to have with regard to the master plan. It was back then, in 2008, that the residents, and they showed up, those residents did show up, and that's what they wanted at this location.
The other thing,
Transit village type of scenario. So it's been a long time. You might be for it, you might be against it. But I ask that you tell the truth. That's, it is what it is. You tell the truth. You don't say, I'm not going to go into it. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Chairman, the other thing I might observe in response to Mr. Patterson's comments in terms of the cost is that this board has gone the extra mile to provide for all these meetings for public input. And there has been a cost of all that, and certainly that was for the service of the residents, including Mr. Patterson. As well, it is certainly, as Mr. Patterson well knows, having not only been a former member of this board, but for at least the last dozen years, a very, very frequent public participant, this board routinely has special meetings when there is action pending. At this point, we don't even know if we're going to have a regular July meeting. We may or may not.
We have nothing on the agenda, no? Well,
We may or may not be having a regular July meeting. At the time that this special meeting was set, it did not appear as though we were having a regular July meeting. So one way or the other, it was not additional cost, and I would have to take exception to Mr. Patterson's contention in that respect. Moreover, if we're talking about, expediting matters, the irony of Mr. Patterson complaining that things are, taking too long and things like that, given his frequent and proper participation before the board, strikes me as interesting.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Eileen Cucaro, 348 3rd Avenue. Quick question for Mrs. Bellagio. How many people were actually included in the public portion of the redevelopment? Transit Village, were they?
Way back when we had 2 public hearings and a room was filled. I don't, who may have not been there. I advertised it in the Westfield Leader both times, as a separate hearing. It was a newspaper article.
No, I understand. How many people?
maybe
The room was filled.
100
room was
people?
filled.
There was a consensus of 100 people in Garwood that this is what they wanted?
At the time, yes.
100?
Yes. And then we had another hearing, a public hearing, when we had and at that time, even though it was indicated in the master plan, that's what they wanted there. We weren't sure if we could handle that. We weren't sure. So I had a study done by New Jersey Transit, NJTPA, okay? Union County. They looked to see if they, if you read it, it's a public document, okay?
I did read it.
And it's open to the public. And I don't know if you were there either. So there was consensus, all right? We worked on this thing since 2008, all right? 2008,
I understand.
all right?
I did read the transit plan. I did read it. There was like 12 people, 10 people that was included in the walking part of Garwood to give their input. They were all pro-transient village people. Was there anybody that was?
They were engineering firms,
Mhm.
okay? Victor, they were engineering firms.
No, I know,
they
I
were-
had the list. I'm talking about the
They were-
people in Garwood.
In fact, I didn't walk with that. It was an independent study. It wasn't funded by municipalities. It was
No, I
funded
know.
by, it's actually a federal grant that went to the NJ Transit. And they kind of took Garwood with a clean slate of paper. We gave them, the board gave them our vision. And don't forget, the board does this monthly.
I understand.
We didn't come up with this yesterday. So every month we talk about what our visions are, but there's no funding. So this is the first time there are funding. All you have to do is advertise. You can't drag the people out. And we can't stipulate to the federal government, you must send a flyer to everybody's house. They won't do that. Because they're dealing with the entire Raritan Valley line. They looked at the entire, and I attended multiple meetings with Union County and the entire Raritan Valley line. So these meetings, and then as of tonight, I give the findings of these meetings from the NJ Transit for the county back to the chairman. So this was going on, and this board has been discussing this with multiple developers, multiple occasions. So, we've exhausted.
I'm not saying that you didn't exhaust
The board
your
has
stuff.
exhausted what we're supposed to do.
Eileen,
Our job is to.
Victor, no more. I just want to say one thing. I worked hard with this, all right? I received input from senior citizens, from young people, from everybody, all right? You know, like I said before, you tell the truth.
I pride
If you
myself on
point-
it, Mrs. Bellagio.
Excuse me?
I pride myself on it. Yes, I do.
Okay.
That's all I really wanted to know, how many people in Garwood were actually part of the
There was
group and the study.
multiple.
How about the study?
Actually,
The
one
study,
meeting-
I had an open house, Eileen.
The one meeting
No, I have
did
the study.
attend-
I know how many
I know.
people.
The
I
one
had
meeting we
to-
did
Okay,
attend.
so you have the answer to your question.
Yeah.
Multiple people, 100 people.
The one
You
meeting I
have
went
you have the
to,
answer to your question, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public?
You do lie.
Seeing none, close that portion. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make motion to adjourn.
Wait a minute, Bill?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, sitting here debating, Mr. Patterson made a comment that his board is poisoning the borough.
Just recently.
I don't really think that that can go without response. I'm sitting here right in front of it, bothers the heck out of me. I think it's very important to recognize, okay, what has gone on in New Jersey in terms of growth, in terms of where it's headed, in terms of Midtown Direct, going up Essex and Bergen counties, to say maybe to Raritan Valley line.
Speak up.
Raritan Valley line. Every town along the Raritan Valley line, Rosedale Park, Union, by Kane College and University, Rosedale Park, where they have their development, Cranford, Fanwood, Plainfield, Somerville. Every single one of those communities has taken advantage of the fact that the hinterlands of New Jersey are losing population, and people are moving to areas where there are trains, areas where there is mass transit, areas where the urban areas exist where people can live, work, and play. I think we all have younger friends who don't understand how our parents lived out in Warren County and drove an hour and a half each way to get to work, 2 hours on Friday to work down the shore. And they said, that's not for me. Growth of New Jersey is within its urban areas. And towns along the Raritan Valley line, towns along the Midtown Direct line have been screaming for development. They've been rezoning left and right to allow the mixed-use developments that is now being proposed in Garwood. Muse, the Point, whatever you want to call it, Victor's firm had such a fantastic role in, to put Garwood on the map in a positive way. Has anyone heard anything negative about that project? This board is not poisoning Borough whatsoever. We're advancing it, in a positive way. And I take exception, I would hope that all the board members would take exception to Mr. Patterson's comments. We'll see if anything what I just said is printed in the leader, but that's a different story for a different day. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and just a closing comment.
Steve,
Well, you'll have to say. You'll have to say.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I just want to say-
Point of order, I thought we had a motion to adjourn on the floor. Am I correct or not?
I heard a motion and a second.
That's just point of order.
And your
that's all.
discussion.
And your second?
Can I just say one thing?
Say one thing.
I apologize if I said anything before. This is an emotional thing for me. I've been working on this, on a redevelopment plan since 2007. I put my heart and soul into this. I volunteered my hours. I was away from my family, and to be questioned, interrogated by a city councilwoman who was not involved back then, I apologize. And thank you for your time.
Okay. I have a motion to adjourn. I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries to adjourn.